Oh yeah, big weight baby, big weight baby, big weight baby, big weight baby, big weight baby. All right, big weight. There's a pretty pervasive problem, and it's not with older women, it's not with younger guys. It seems to be everyone, except the people who have already achieved the things that they want to achieve in the world of fitness and health. And you're like, well, Mike, what's the problem? The problem is that people are scared to go heavy. People are scared of heavy weights. And there's numerous reasons, and they're all false. Some of them are made up. They're in your brain, but they don't exist in reality. Some of them are so unbelievably counterintuitive to someone who has any idea what they're talking about that it actually is perplexing. All right? So I have an edict for you, and that is lift heavy weights. If you're not lifting heavy weights, start. Are you scared of lifting heavy weights? Maybe. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. That's the whole fucking point. Then you get competent at doing it. You go in, you do it, you're scared of doing it, you do it, you're successful at it, and you're like, what else am I capable of? And that's an amazing piece of human development. And guess what? The 1 pound pink fucking bedazzled weights that you got from Goop are not going to get you there, no matter how many times you use them. All right, everyone, welcome to the Mikey Likes You podcast. Today is the day of amazing episodes. I am Mikey who likes, you are you who is liked. We've gone through this before. It's still true. So there is a big misconception in the world of fitness when it comes to resistance training. There's a lot of misconceptions, but the one big one is that big weights are only for the elite or only for people who want to do specialized things, that the casual fitness enthusiast has no need to push big weight, to challenge themselves with the actual amount of resistance. Because A, you're a dumb young guy who thinks, I just want to get cut, bro. I don't want to be big and bulky. I just want to be cut, lean. So I'm going to carve out the cuts with high reps. Wrong. Or you're a female who says, I don't want to be bulky. I don't want to be too bulky. So I'm not going to lift too heavy. Wrong. Or you say, I don't want to injure myself. Lifting heavy has such a high potential of danger. Wrong. Lifting improperly, essentially, I don't want to say it's the weight is irrelevant, but it's statistically pretty close to it. The truth is that improper form provides just as much chance for injury as any level of resistance with good form, perfect form. And also, achieving perfect form isn't really that unreasonable for someone, even if they're completely untrained. It does take a little effort and it takes a little patience. But my question to you is like, how many years are going to go by where you keep wishing for something, yet engaging in behavior that you're pretty certain isn't going to get you there? Because you ladies out there, how many more hours are you going to spend on a stair climber and doing body weight booty band workouts that you find on like the Peloton website and not seeing the results you want to see, not looking like some IG model that has, the hourglass figure? And guys, how many years are you going to spend wanting to look like fucking Ryan Reynolds or Ryan Gosling or other dudes named Ryan who look good, and doing like your 50 push-ups and thinking like, oh, I got this, I'm good, because I don't want to be bulky. I don't want to be The Rock, so I don't need to lift heavy weights. How long are you going to continue engaging in this behavior without seeing the results you want to see before you just get fed up and start maybe asking that question of, well, is this going to be worth it if I go and do something that is admittedly scary to me? And also, I don't want anyone out there to feel like it's insulting or demeaning for me to point out that it's scary, because it is, and I was scared of it. And I was scared the first time I went into a boxing gym. I was scared the first time I got into a jiu-jitsu mat. I was scared the first time I did Muay Thai. I was scared the first time I did a lot of things. And then I did them. And if I liked them, I would continue doing them. And I got less scared. And then I got really kind of proud of myself. And you don't really get very proud of yourself by doing things that are just devoid of any type of pressure or inherent danger. Like, there's just no amount. I'm not shitting on video games. In fact, I think modern video games are pretty awesome. If you're a big gamer, I encourage you to continue gaming. But there's no level of gaming, unless maybe you're like a competitive gamer, which most people aren't. But there's no level of like gaming just for for recreation, where you go, like, I'm so proud of myself. I've achieved so much. I feel so much better about myself. It's really scary to do a lot of things. And most of those things are what present us this opportunity to become better. Okay? I mean, that's at the heart of this whole thing, because there's a lot of people who want to lose weight. There's a lot of people who want to look better. There's a lot of guys who want bigger chests, and there's a lot of girls who want bigger booties or whatever. I can't with any level of certainty tell you, well, this is going to make you feel better about yourself, because maybe it doesn't. I know people with perfect bodies that still feel terrible about themselves. The vanity aspect of it, although it's undeniable, and it certainly has fueled me in many of my fitness endeavors, there's been an absolutely unashamed desire to look better. Who doesn't want to look, or at least feel like I'm looking better? But what I can say is that right now, if you were to stop what you were doing and really commit yourself to strength training, to proper resistance training, at levels that are strenuous, that in 2024, at this time of year, and at Valentine's Day 2024, if you have dramatically increased your core lifts, you are going to feel 1,000,000 times better about yourself. Regardless of how those things carry over physically into your life, which they do, by the way, they carry over very positively. More so than any other kind of metric by which you measure fitness and health, strength carries over into life better than any of them. But even if you didn't see that carryover, the carryover in how you feel about yourself is undeniable. You will stand up straighter. You will be more confident in all of life's situations by becoming stronger. You are literally more resilient to outside forces trying to put tax on you. And believe me, that makes you feel a lot better. And let's be clear, lifting heavy weights encourages lipolysis, which is essentially a fancy word for the internal metabolic function of fat burning. Do you want to lose body fat? Give up on these endless cycles of cardio and all this stuff, because if you're not really challenging yourself in a structured way when it comes to heavy resistance training, you're leaving all of that on the table. Bone density and bone strength. Reducing your biological age. Everyone wants to put creams and inject shit in their body to make themselves look younger, feel younger. Lifting heavy weights over a prolonged period of time literally makes you younger by all measurements of longevity and health. Okay? A lot of aerobic and hyper aerobic, or anaerobic work is actually detracting from your ability to be younger. It makes you age. Do you want to pay a doctor or get insurance or deal with whatever you can to find fancy hormones to put in your body? I'm guessing you probably do. You may not end up doing it, but certainly the idea of increasing testosterone, of decreasing negative effects of estrogen for men, for increasing testosterone, and also mitigating and handling and controlling estrogen for women at different points of your life, of increasing libido. All of these things are regulated by hormones internally. None of those things are positively affected by most forms of exercise. Most forms of exercise actually decrease those hormonal functions and make them form a more negative trend. Heavy resistance training, not high repetition, low weight resistance training, heavy resistance training increases those to a pretty sizable amount, to an amount that it would be worth your time. It would be worth your effort. And more importantly, it'd be worth you puncturing these preconceived notions that are based on, more than likely based on, something you made up in your head. Did you have some shredded goddess come over to you and go, you really just at all costs avoid lifting heavy weights because it's going to be damaging? No, most women just decided they don't want to be bulky and that heavy weights equal bulky, and therefore they're always going to perpetually not look the way they want to look. You made it up in your head. Most men have this idea that they want to look like Bruce Lee. They don't want to look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, so they're going to avoid the heavy weights. Newsflash, Bruce Lee didn't start looking like Bruce Lee until he started lifting heavy weights. Now, heavy is relative, right? You may go to the gym right now. You may go out into your home gym right now and have a 45-pound Olympic barbell, and you may feel like that is heavy. That's fine. Do it. Row that. Overhead press it. Bench press it. And eventually that won't be as heavy. And then you add weight to that. And that'll feel pretty heavy. It doesn't matter the overall amount. It matters in the amount of resistance that weight provides to you. Because I will tell you, I'm strong, but I'm certainly not very strong when it comes to most people that I train with. And certain people that I've trained around, I'm actually like a bitch ass. But it doesn't matter because the weights that I train with are really heavy for me. The weights I train with right now actually probably wouldn't be that heavy for 28-year-old Mike. And sometimes that gets a little bit hurtful to me. But I go, you know what? I'm 43 and I'm still lifting weights that 99.9% of the people on earth, and frankly, 99.9% of the people that have ever walked the face of the earth could ever lift. And I fluctuate. I'm 183 to like 175 pounds. I'm not exactly a giant monster of a man. I work within I'm 5'10", just for reference sake, okay? I work with my physique, kind of a lot of times the kind of body that a guy wants to have. I'm not a skinny mini. I don't look like but I'm also not like a vulgar giant, beefcake that has trouble fitting into most clothes, And there's a reason why my health markers are high, and there's a reason why I seem to be able to engage in most movement patterns, even though I'm 43 years old. Most 43-year-olds aren't able to do a lot of the kind of movement patterns with consistency that I do. I'm able to avoid injury much better than most guys my age, even though I engage in what most people believe is like the super dangerous, super injury-prone activity of lifting heavy weights. And most importantly, when it comes to actually dividing up the different types of resistance training, This comes from research shown from NASA done on astronauts in space. This shows there is a Harvard research paper that has just come out that is pretty, this isn't like meathead.com saying these things. There's ample and conclusive scientific proof that when it comes to being in a caloric deficit, which is what most people want to be in because most people want to lose weight, they want to lose body fat. Most people find themselves overweight and they want to have less weight, right? Well, when engaging in activity, resistance training is a far superior thing to do when trying to diet than cardiovascular activity. I'm not saying cardio sucks. I'm saying it is a superior form of exercise when dieting. Resistance training is, okay? Resistance training in lower rep ranges with heavier weight is far more muscle preserving and anti-catabolic and far more useful when in a caloric deficit than high rep training with lower forms of resistance. Muscle sparing activity is lifting heavier weights in lower rep ranges. And also you're capable of doing it because of human energy systems. Because if you are depriving yourself of caloric intake, you can't really engage in higher rep training to any level over a extended period of time. You can get away with a couple days. People who carb cycle, they'll drop their carbs and they can still do higher rep stuff. It's miserable, but you can do it. But eventually that ends. You just don't have the glycogen inside your body to continue pumping out stuff to get, your alactic system is just not functional. Anything above, a certain rep range, regardless of the weight, you just can't engage in repetitive activity at a higher intensity when you're kind of lower on calories and lower on carbs. That's why there's never been a champion keto bodybuilder. There may be lower carb guys. I know Frank Zane, Serge Nubret, and a lot of the old schoolers have had a lot of success with lowering carbs. But getting into super low carbs, it's just not something that you can do. Because gaining serious amounts of muscle mass, you need a caloric surplus, and you need to have ample amounts of glycogen on the ready so that you can do these higher volume kind of activities, which really spur on hypertrophy. So this idea that the heavy weights is relegated to these muscle monsters is not only untrue, it's actually the antithesis of the truth. And it's funny because this is one of the rare things where like young kids nowadays have it better off. They got it way more down than the people in their middle age and above. You go over TikTok, you see some of these influencers on Instagram and YouTube. These are 20 to 23-year-old people who are just pumping huge weight, female and male, and they look amazing. So I do see there's a trend that's changing. But right now, look, if you're like the 28-year-old to 45-year-old mom, you're sitting there watching this, you're like, I don't buy it. I have my pink dumbbells and I'm going to do my thing. But I'm telling you, how much longer are you going to do that before you finally just say the jig is up? And here's another thing that really bothers me about this, because it's not your fault that you have these ideas in your head. It's kind of like the fitness world. And this bothers me so much because like the Peloton / bar method / Fitfluencer, like, You Go Girl Self magazine world is constantly pushing this narrative of like, we'll just do endless amounts of cardio, just do like, highlight it with some lateral raises and curls and stuff. And you don't want the saggy arms, to do your overhead tricep extensions with your 3-pound weights. All the girls that are selling you that I see at the gym fucking squatting, doing like set after set of like boom, heavy. Seriously. I saw this is I used to have this friend when I lived in Venice Beach. I used to have this friend, female friend. It was a friend of my wife's, a friend of mine, and she was big into F45, right? And she looked great, but she was like she wasn't by any means obese or fat. She wasn't even overweight. But she's a thicker person, you know. And she wanted to like lean out, you know, like who doesn't? Who doesn't want to be leaner? And so she's like, I got into F45, you know, because it's like it gets my heart rate going, gets me going. And it's gonna help me lose weight. Yeah, but you want to be lighter and leaner and more muscular. You want to have an athletic, lean physique. And fuck all that shit. By the way, it's hard. F45, the circuit training, the CrossFit kind of stuff, Orange Theory, like it's good. Do it if you enjoy it. Do it. But I'm saying it's really difficult, and it's not getting you there. She's like, what do you mean? My instructor has an amazing body. This is not a made up story to help support my claims here. This is 100% true. And I was like, all right, well, look, that's great. I'm sure she does, but I'm just telling you, if you want a more efficient way to get there, it would be, heavy resistance training. Periodize it. I could talk to you about it. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get illustrated. I was like, go, you do your thing. So I go with my wife and we pick her up, and I go in and I look in this F45 gym, and I see this girl, and she does have amazing body, beautiful physique, right? And I'm like, hey, look, F45 made you look like that. Well, it was great. But in my mind, I was like, I'm sure maybe she practiced what she, but that girl, look at her, look at the striation in the back, in her rear delts. Look at her, her calves and her booty, that girl's lifting. And my wife's like, you think? I was like, I'm certain. It's not a week later, I'm at Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, the Mecca, where I worked out. And I see this girl with another male F45 instructor in their F45, boom, squatting, overhead, boom, big heavy weights. And I was like, okay. I FaceTimed that chick that I was talking about. I was like, look. She's Portuguese. She's Brazilian, but she had that, she spoke Portuguese, and she had she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're so right. Look, they're doing the heavy weights, my friend. That was cartoonishly bad impersonation. But my friend wasn't Renato Laranja. But here, let's break down the reasons why most people are resistant to it. One, they don't know how. And I get that. That sucks. I don't want to do things I don't know how to do either. And you're not good at it naturally. No one's naturally strong. Some people are, but we don't want to talk about them because they're probably doing something where they're making money off of being naturally strong. NFL football player or shot putter or some shit. But no one, statistically is naturally impressively strong. So why do you want to engage in that? Okay? It sucks. It hurts your ego to go do something you're shitty at. But no one's naturally anything cool. Who's naturally amazing at playing guitar? Who's naturally amazing at, who naturally speaks numerous languages? Zero humans. Zero, anything that you think of that is appealing, no one's just automatically good at it. We're not Labradors that just out of the womb know how to swim. You just gotta break away from that ego. The ego will destroy all the good things that come to you in your life, because it certainly has in my life, but your ego is telling you don't join a gym, don't buy a barbell set and do that because you're going to suck at it. So for the fuck, what? So what? I still suck at a lot of things that I do, but I enjoy it and I see myself getting incrementally better, and it makes me want to do it more because then it makes me feel good about myself, and nothing else makes me feel good about myself except for doing stuff that's really challenging and getting incrementally better at it and finding it less challenging as I go. Because then I think to myself like, wow, I did something. Something I can objectively see I'm getting better at. And there's no other reason that I've gotten better at it other than I kept going and I kept showing up and I kept trying and I kept pushing myself. So the fear of looking like an idiot and looking bad at something, that's one reason why people don't want to lift heavy weights. 2, they don't want to get the big bulky look. Okay, this is one that drives me up the wall for a couple reasons. 1, it's untrue. Okay, that's reason number 1. Number 2 is it's just wrong. Number 3 is like, how fucking arrogant are you that you think by virtue of lifting heavy weights a couple times, you're just going to explode with muscle when it takes the best people at building muscle decades of stuffing their face and training like animals just to see little bits of growth. But you assume that you're such a genetic freak, you're such a gift to the human race that you're gonna like learn how to deadlift and be like going home going, oh geez, God, my waist is so wide now and my shoulders are just too buff. I can't wear my sleeveless dress to the bar tonight because I've been squatting and overhead pressing for 4 days. Damn you heavyweights. Then there's the other fear. Another reason is that you're afraid of heavy weights being on you, which is 100% understandable. It's scary. Until you get good at it, it's scary to squat. It's scary to bench press until you practice it, until you learn how to do it right. With any amount of weight, the idea of having a certain amount of weight above you ready to guillotine your ass it's scary. It's scary. I get that. But so much of the weight that is scaring you is just right here. A lot of people tell themselves, I can't lift that. It's just far too heavy. It's like, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? That's an empty bar. Yeah, but I can't do that. I'm like, you're 30 and you're not disabled in any way. You can lift that. And the problem that you have going on in your life is in no way physical and has nothing to do with the resistance training. It's that you're in your head just like completely mind fucked, believing that you're not capable of doing anything. And, right now, especially when it comes to females, we're in this rather transformative time in history, certainly in, the Western world, where we're really on the back end of like the Me Too movement, but we're still seeing like this, the future is female, you go girl, queen, the whole female empowerment thing. And I'm not one of those like, I'm not going to be like a fake male feminist to try to pander to girls, okay? But I'm also not like, I don't have any problem with any of this. I actually kind of like it. Some of the let's bring down men for for like some of the shakier takedowns and cancelings of guys, I have a problem with, because that's not female empowerment. Let's just fuck with guys because we can now. But the real one, I love seeing, and I really admire, these women who have the courage to come forward, for the Bill Cosbys and the Harvey Weinsteins and the Les Moonvests. It's disgusting, and I don't want to see something that's absolutely an imbalance in power structure that has gone on in society since really the beginning of modern mankind. What we know is like contemporary civilization. There's been a power imbalance, and that men have gotten away with, certainly in the workplace, like just being able to manipulate women in the whole thing, right? And I have no problem. In fact, I with open arms, I say, let's try to balance that out. But my point being, we're in this renaissance of female empowerment, right? Great thing. There's nothing outside of intellectual kind of endeavors. There's nothing else more empowering than being strong. And you don't have to be a giant muscle monster lady. But nothing levels the playing fields between men and women than a woman who can deadlift twice her body weight. When you see that, you're like, oh, fuck yeah, hell yeah. You see those girls just putting plates on the bar and squatting it, boom. And their grip gets stronger, and their posture's better. And of course, the booty gets tighter and a little higher up. And here's another thing that I don't think enough people talk about. If you're a young girl and you're thinking, well, I want to be appealing to the opposite sex. I don't know how it plays out for lesbians, because look, frankly, I'm a guy. I'm a straight guy. So I'm just giving you my take on this. If you're a young straight girl and you're like, but I want to be appealing to the opposite sex, right? The curtain's been pulled back. For 80 years, media and fashion designers, and they have tricked you into believing that you need to be anorexic and look like you came out of a concentration camp. But now we have Instagram and OnlyFans and TikTok, and you're not relying on Cosmo and Calvin Klein ads. You can see objectively, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what do men like? Them thick girls. All men. Okay? So do you genuinely want to be appealing to men of the opposite? Sure. Is there going to be those guys out there that like the wafy, thin? I'm sure. Right? Frankly, I'm not that discerning. I just like chicks in general. But if you take any survey of men and you take a girl who's 5 pounds underweight versus a girl who's 5 to 10 pounds overweight, we will choose 5 to 10 pounds overweight any day, especially if those 5 to 10 pounds are in the right places. And by the way, that's genetics. That's biological, because it's the same, like there's no other explanation. I'm not a breast guy. I don't really care much about, I'm not saying I don't like big boobies, but it's not I much prefer like smaller boobies that are nicely shaped with big ass and thighs. A girl could look like a witch. If she has nice enough legs and ass, I'm in. She could look like a disaster. Like haggard tweaker in a Fontana trailer park. But if she had like who's a good example? Rihanna's pretty up there. I was watching the Super Bowl halftime and I was like, oh, If a girl has like Jessica Biel's lower body, she could have, she could look like Carrot Top in the head, and I'd be like, well, down to fuck? But my point being is that, so why would you not engage in these activities that make you look more filled out in the right places and increase, like, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. There's ample and conclusive scientific proof. It's the best way to encourage lipolysis or fat burning. It's the best way to encourage muscle retention when trying to lose weight. And most of the core exercises are going to highlight the hips, the thighs, the kind of the upper shoulders and stuff like that. All these places, the deltoids, which is what, like, where women find those appealing hourglass features. And if you're scared about being bulky, and oh, by the way, here's another thing, ladies. If you feel like it would be a turnoff to a guy if you got strong, if you no longer needed him to open the pickle jar, if you no longer needed him to carry bags in from the grocery store and shit, if you felt like that would be emasculating then it's a great little test, because that means you have the wrong guy. Any guy who gets insecure about his potential or his partner's achievements in a certain area is not the right guy for you. Okay? That's bitch made. Look, I'll tell you, look, when we first married my wife, she was making considerably more money than I was. And there was a moment, I wouldn't lie to you, it was awkward. But I wasn't about to be like, this is it, deal breaker. I love to pump iron. I love it. I like to push myself when it comes to strength and stuff, and really see those markers of strength go up. It's something that's very important to me. I attach a lot of therapeutic and mental health kind of aspects to what I do when it comes to barbells and stuff. And if my wife could out deadlift me, there wouldn't be one piece of me that would go like, oh God, no, you really need to back. I would be like, look at this chick. Look at this chick. That's what I'm talking about. So you're going to open up your appeal to most men, and you're going to get a very, very good litmus test to find out if the man that you're with is a bitch. Because the guy that can't tolerate his girlfriend beating him in arm wrestling or something like that, I'm not like the most secure guy in the world, but I just don't understand that. I don't understand that take. Not one bit. You need to check your shit. You need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Getting back to another one of the pervasive ideas of why people don't lift heavy weights is because they say it'll make you bulky. Let me reiterate this. I've said this on God knows how many episodes, and I'll say it again right now, and I'll probably end up saying it a lot more. The only thing that makes you grow or get bulky is food. And eating too much of it. There is no physical activity that, when combined with a regulated caloric intake, is going to make your muscles grow in any way. Any way, shape, or form. In an appealing way or in a bulky, ugly way, in your opinion. It is impossible, whether you lift fucking world-class powerlifting numbers, whether you're lifting like Eddie Hall, or you are picking up your pink dumbbells. that doesn't matter as long as you're not in a caloric surplus. So the only thing that makes your body change in size is how much you eat or don't eat. So for you guys out there that say, I need to bulk up, but I don't want to get fat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat nothing, but I'm going to lift heavy weights. And then my muscles will grow, but my fat is going to. No. And for you girls out there who say, I'm not going to lift weights because I don't want to be bulky, but I'm going to go home and I'm going to slam 15 pints of Ben & Jerry's and then wash that down with a 6-pack of White Claw. My question to you is like, what do you think's going to make you bulky? What do you think's going to make you bulky? Training can and will dictate the composition of your body, but the only thing that dictates the size of your body is food. There's no argument to be made there. Now, if you were to eat either at maintenance level, exactly at maintenance level, or in a slight surplus or slight deficit, I mean slight, 200 calories, right, in either direction, over a long period of time, you could then be in a margin where the type of training you're doing is dictating everything. But the notion that the training in and of itself is going to change the way that you look is wrong, because the only thing it's changing is the composition of the cells that are already there. The body doesn't build more body without an excess in calories, and the body doesn't take away more body, be it fat or muscle, without a deficit of calories. Okay? How that looks when you're done is greatly dictated by your training. And that's another thing that I wanted to get into. That if you're going to lose weight, one of the worst things you can do is not resistance train, or resistance train with very light weights. Male, female, old, and young. The most recent study out of the Mayo Clinic about people of an extended age, it was 65 years and above, showed that the only thing people should do to increase quality of life as they get to their golden years is not only lift weights, but lift heavy weights, obviously proportionate to their abilities. Heavy amounts of resistance training. Now, I mentioned earlier in the show this NASA study, and I found this one fascinating. They're having a real problem, regardless of what food and what kind of exercise equipment they would put on the International Space Station. They're having a real problem with muscular atrophy. Okay, muscles withering away. For young, healthy people, people 35, 45, I don't know. Most astronauts are not senior citizens. These are young, sometimes in their late 20s, right? So these men and women go up in the International Space Station, and they were having a real problem, like I said, with having these people almost as if they suffered from disease. They would come back. And they mitigated it all by putting in resistance training machine, because they couldn't really have barbells and stuff up there, but they put in machines that had this ability to adjust resistance, and they would have them engage in 3 days a week of incredibly heavy, low rep weight training. It completely fixed the entire problem. And now it's become kind of I don't know if it's mandatory, but it's an incredibly encouraged part of being on the International Space Station. Because that is part of the setup of the human animal. The makeup of our fast twitch muscle cells, it's something that you need to be constantly really taxing in order to achieve all these things that we want to achieve in the long run, regardless if you want to be a competitive bodybuilder or powerlifter or not. There's a great girl on Instagram. Her name, she's at Swole Woman, and I encourage you to check it out, especially you young ladies, because she suffered from all the kind of misconceptions, and she fell victim to a lot of the misconceptions that I think a lot of young women are having. And she kind of just threw caution to the wind, and she got rid of her little 1 pound dumbbells. I'll put a link to an article she did for Vice a while back that I found that it was really excellent. She broke down all these kind of misconceptions and all these positive ideas that I'm going to give you about lifting heavy weights. And she said, after 15 years of dieting, I gave up. I started eating to encourage strength, and I started to lift heavy weights. And after a time, my abs had never come in like they were, and I was 40 pounds heavier than I was a year ago. Now, I understand she at the point was like really thin, and I know a lot of women are not dealing with that. You're looking at yourself thinking that you might be overweight, but it still goes against what I think a lot of the common misconception is that I want to look like a feminine, elegant female. I want to look like fill in the blank. And it's not achieved. In fact, not only is it not achieved by doing lots of cardio and lightweight resistance, but it actually can be impeding your ability to get to where you want to go. And on a basic level, how many, I will ask this of everyone. Give it a shot, right? How painful is it to give it a shot, to give real resistance training a shot for 6 months and try and get stronger? In comparison to how painful it is to be weak and to be scared. Because this isn't a political statement. This is absolutely a nonpartisan statement. But I think that regardless if you're the leftiest lefty progressive or you're like super right-wing MAGA guy, we kind of collectively are agreeing there is some kind of nebulous unseen force that is ruling us that really, really wants us to be scared. Government / mainstream media / shadow government / corporate collusion / powerful whatever. There's this kind of cabal, and it includes a lot of the people, financially powerful people, government agencies, and just the influential kind of upper crust. They thrive on the idea of us just being scared to do these things. Not necessarily just lifting weights, but just everything. It's just be perfectly content with not rocking the boat. Eat your fast food, eat your processed, giant corporation made food. Watch your opiate for the masses television, and just don't question it. And how much longer, what's the worst that can happen by throwing caution to the wind and saying fuck it. I'm a 75-year-old guy who hasn't lifted weights before, or I'm a 25-year-old young mom. It's let's go. Because everyone's so vastly different. All of us are. I don't know if getting shredded would make you feel a lot better about yourself. I don't know if getting super jacked would get you to feel a lot better about yourself. I don't. Might not. I don't know if becoming a black belt in jiu-jitsu, or even trying jiu-jitsu, or learning how to be an excellent marksman, or learning how to speak a second language. I don't know. I can assume that those things would make you feel better about it, but I don't know. But I know that if you marked it in stone right now, that if you sizably increased your strength in the core lifts, that in 1 year you would be a better person. You would be more confident. You would be more accountable. You'd be more resilient, physically and emotionally. Because all the things that go into having the patience, the self-control, the discipline, the ambition to gradually increase the weights, to have the ego, the ability to control your ego, to go, okay, this might be too much. So you know what? I'm going to take off 10 pounds. You know what? That felt light, but still I should just really have the self-control to make sure my form is perfect. And you just plug away and plug away and plug away. Because you get up to a sizable amount of weight and you pull that off the ground for the first time in a deadlift, or you get down to the bottom of a squat with like the first time you can really feel comfortable doing it, and you have this bar on your back and you get down in the hole and you get below parallel and you've worked on your mobility and you've found your body alignment problems and you've worked those, so you got to the point that you can break parallel and you get down to the bottom of it and you bring out and the veins start pumping, you start to see shit and you rack it and you just like, whew. There's nothing like it. There's so few things, and I can't say that any other aspect of fitness can fall into that category. I have to assume, I've never engaged in like a lot of endurance sports, but I do know that there's such an immense amount of mental strength that comes into being good at endurance sports that there has to be some similarity there too. But I can tell you, it is a absolute cheat code to just kind of changing a lot of things in your life. Because being weak is not okay. Being weak is not okay. Man or woman. And you may be weak right now. I was. But don't resign yourself to being that way. Being strong says a lot. And it's really, really, really transferable into all other aspects of life. Because you can fake a lot of the visual stuff. Not always. You don't have to, but it can be done. Fucking crash dieting, drugs, plastic surgery, different types of makeup, fancy clothes. You can do a lot of things to manipulate and just take shortcuts. There's no shortcut to being strong. You say, oh, well, you can take drugs. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Take all the fucking steroids you want. Three times body weight deadlift, doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck how many drugs you're on. But still, God, it still takes an insane amount of work, and it's a real slow go. So, bone strength, bone density, all markers of longevity and health. Muscle retention in a caloric deficit, encourages fat loss, increases metabolic rate, improves your hormone profile. And these are just the things that I can conclusively say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, off the top of my head, that come your way when you plug away with heavy weights. These are things that are not going to come your way by avoiding heavy weights. More definition with your muscles as opposed to bulkiness. Less injury. For instance, unless you really work hard and spend a considerable amount of time and effort, you will jog and you will hurt yourself. Running and cardio that isn't in a fixed plane deteriorates your body and runners deal with more injuries than any other sport. Football, I think overall of all, like the ball sports, football has the most injuries just day in and day out. But as far as severity of injury, soccer is the worst. Soccer has the nastiest fucking injuries with incredible frequency. Yet every one of you fat, pudgy shitheads will do like your rec league soccer tournament, but you're like, I don't want to lift weights because I might get hurt. If you're not a consistently training athlete and you're playing pickup basketball and soccer, you are way, way more prone to getting hurt than lifting weights with good form. If you are running marathons, you are way more prone to get hurt than lifting weights with good form. Like not even a competition. It's way, way safer. And when you get good at lifting heavy weights with good form, you become far more injury resistant. Far more. So let's say by some amazing ability, you are tough enough and you have the discipline to like go to a running coach and go over and get really good at running. And you get still by running that marathon, you're now setting your body up to be more injury prone. Even if you do it right, even if you don't actively injure yourself, because the repetitive motion is going to deteriorate. It's not good for your bone density. It's not good for your connective tissue. It doesn't encourage growth in those areas. It doesn't increase rigidity and tension in your connective tissue or more robust bone density. So you're just chipping away. It's just like, well, here it comes. Make yourself harder to kill. Make yourself more resilient. And it all comes your way through heavyweight training. So stop being a bitch. Let's go heavy. Nothing but a peanut. That is my overall message for you. Okay? Like, subscribe, do it. Help me out. We got to beat the machines. And my Patreon is available. Many different training plans and different nutritional notes. I just wrote a great article about like the outside stuff, the stuff outside the gym, lifestyle factors that not only play a huge role into the quality or the frequency of your training, but they actually should be dictating how much and how hard you're training. Things like your romantic relationships, stress on the job, kids, no kids, what type of job you have, okay? And then also I offer at the top tier, me helping you day by day. I work for you, virtual training and nutrition completely mapped out. Check it out. I'll put a link in the profile below. Thank you to all my sponsors, to Blue Chew, Bet Online, and to Magic Spoon. Thank you to all of my patrons that are already there, especially you top tier people. It's amazing. I still can't get over the fact that you do that for me. And assalamu alaikum. In this crazy mixed up world that makes you think that nobody cares, remember, I do. Be good, people.